Alright man, we are now halfway to me getting another playoff series completely wrong. Potentially every significant Eastern Conference series wrong. Obviously the series isn't over yet, but man, the Pacers, they're just absolutely unbelievable, dude. I mean, is it crazy that what immediately jumps out to me from this game is UNT just the final score, but the way they systematically dismantled everything the Knicks tried to throw at them? Look, I'll be honest with you, I thought I had this series figured out. I thought the Knicks' physicality and playoff experience would be the difference maker. But watching Haliburton put Brunson in those screen actions late in the game, getting those couple of big baskets against him, it's becoming clear that Indiana has answers for everything New York is doing. The Pacers aren't just winning games. They're teaching basketball clinics out there. What really struck me watching this unfold was how composed they looked in those crucial moments. When teams usually tighten up and start playing hero ball, the Pacers just kept running their stuff, kept trusting their system. That's championship-level mentality right there. And the scariest part for the Knicks? It feels sustainable. It's not like Indiana's hitting miracle shots or getting lucky bounces. They read just better right now, and they know it. The confidence is radiating through their entire roster, from their stars down to their role players. But what I immediately think of when I reflect on this game was that incredible stretch they had to open the fourth quarter. Man, they were just absolutely cooking the Knicks on these TJ McConnell and Miles Turner pick and rolls. It was like watching a masterclass in offensive execution. Turner got that three-point play because Mitch fouled him at the rim. And you could see Cat was just lost in no man's land. Here's what happened on that play. Cat goes high up on the TJ screen for a second, right? But then he's just kind of floating in the middle of the floor, completely out of position. Then he tries to close out to Ben Shepherd, but Campazzo is already doing that rotation. So now Mitch, who was planning to go back to Siakam, suddenly has to scramble back to Turner. At least he fouled him, but that's exactly the kind of confusion the Pacers feast on. And it wasn't just one play. They kept running variations of the same action. TJ's making pull-ups on Cat, or TJ and Miles are running these pick and rolls from the corner, while Ben Shepherd simultaneously cuts through the middle of the floor. The spacing was just perfect, and the Knicks looked totally overwhelmed by the movement. Later in that sequence, Siakam gets an open three off the same basic concept. The Pacers were completely in their bag, and the Knicks' defense looked like they were playing in quicksand, always one step behind. Then they take Cat out of the game for a stretch in the fourth. Thibs clearly saw what was happening and tried to make an adjustment. But here's the thing about the Pacers. They've got counters for your counters. Even with Cat on the bench, Miles Turner is still getting open threes because Mitch is helping off him in the corner when Haliburton's attacking Brunson. It's like they've studied every possible defensive rotation and have a plan for each one.
Haliburton!
That dude just cooked Brunson in straight one-on-one situations and knocked down those threes with ice in his veins. You could see the frustration building on the Knicks' faces because they know Brunson is supposed to be their guy. They're closer. And here's Haliburton matching him shot for shot and then some. On the other end, and this is just the fourth quarter we were talking about here, we'll get into Siakam's complete game in a minute, but Jalen Brunson was making some really tough shots. And of course, Aaron Nesmith is always battling and making life difficult for opposing guards. There were a couple of plays where you had both Nesmith and Nembhard just swarming Brunson on screens, or Nesmith providing that perfect help defense as Mitch was rolling to the basket. The defensive intensity from Indiana was suffocating, but they were doing it without fouling or getting out of position. That's the mark of a well-coached, disciplined team that knows exactly what they're trying to accomplish on every possession. We've got to talk about Pascal Siakam, man. I mean, how many difficult fadeaways and turnarounds did this guy make over Jalen Brunson? Over OG, over basically whoever the Knicks put on him. It was like watching a clinic in post-up scoring and mid-range excellence. But it wasn't just the scoring. It was the basketball IQ plays that really impressed me. There were these nice little sequences where he de-set an extra screen after Cat had already switched onto Haliburton, which would just free him up for an open three. You know, like a ghost screen. The Pacers run that stuff constantly. And it's so effective because defenders lose track of him for just a split second. That's all Siakam needs to get a clean look. And then he's getting easy buckets in transition because, you know, that's always been in the Pacers' back pocket. You can just never relax against these guys. The moment you think you've got them figured out, they're running something different. Siakam embodies that perfectly. He's constantly moving, constantly thinking one step ahead of the defense. What really stood out to me was his patience in the post. A lot of players in playoff situations start rushing their moves, trying to force things that aren't there. Not Siakam. He'd catch the ball, survey the defense, maybe throw a fake or two, and then attack when he saw the opening. Those turnaround jumpers over multiple defenders were unlucky shots. They were the result of perfect footwork and timing. The guy is just operating on a different level right now. I've got to address Brunson's final shot attempt there. When he took it, there were 9 seconds left on the clock, and they still had a timeout available. Now, the three-pointer he attempted. That's definitely a shot he can make. No question about his ability. But I wouldn't say it was the absolute best shot you could imagine in that situation, you know? You could argue that maybe they were worried about Indiana doing the foul up three strategy. Honestly, you never know what's going to happen in those final seconds. The chaos can work in your favor sometimes. But still, with Brunson, hell, he had hit some absolutely massive shots earlier in the game. That 3 over Nembhard off a play where basically nothing was drawn up, just pure shot-making ability. Even with all that said, I remember going into this series thinking, well, you know what? I'll trust Brunson to make the last shot over Haliburton. That seemed like a reasonable bet based on their track records and clutch performance, but now we know what's happened in these first 2 games. That Haliburton shot that sent Game 1 to overtime, and now this. Sure, Haliburton didn't shoot the ball great for this game overall. His percentage was unspectacular. But I still thought his passing was absolutely phenomenal throughout. The guy is orchestrating this offense like a conductor leading a symphony. And even when his shot isn't falling, he's finding ways to impact winning. One thing I was really fixated on during stretches of this game was how the Pacers were handling the Knicks defensively. Obviously, Brunson was still doing his thing. That's going to happen. He's too good to completely shut down. And Mitch Robinson continued to terrorize them on the offensive glass. Mitch ended up with 4 offensive rebounds. That doesn't even count all the plays where he might not get officially credited for the board. Or it deflects off a Pacers player, but he was the reason for the extra possession. Mitch had some really nice switches onto Haliburton too, showing that defensive versatility that makes him so valuable. But here's what really caught my attention. Among all of this individual excellence, there were several plays where it felt like the Pacers were able to help off Josh Hart effectively. You'd see Nembhard positioned as that extra defender in the paint, which was forcing Brunson to either take much tougher shots than he would normally prefer, or just pass out of promising scoring opportunities entirely. I think on one of those missed Mitch layups late in the game, it was actually Nesmith who might have been providing that help defense, possibly coming off of Josh Hart. They were messing around with different lineups in those final minutes, trying to find the right combination to get stops. It's a chess match within the chess match, and right now, the Pacers seem to be thinking several moves ahead of whatever adjustments the Knicks are trying to make. One question that I didn't even focus on enough after Game 1, and this was probably because of just the absolute craziness and drama of that entire game, was the defensive approach with Cat. In that first game, it was more often Cat dropping back on screens, playing that traditional big man coverage. But in this game, it was much more frequently him switching onto those screens, and the results were mixed at best. While there were definitely a couple of times where Haliburton tried to dance on him in isolation and missed, those shots credit to Cat's length and effort. Haliburton also successfully danced on him and converted some really difficult shots. But what I think was even more problematic for the Knicks was how the Pacers were able to flow into other actions once they got that switch. Like I mentioned earlier, Siakam would set that extra screen, and suddenly it becomes an open 3 for him, where Toppin would set an off-ball screen for Nembhard after the Cat switch. Because the Knicks were naturally trying to get into help defense positioning, they're thinking, okay, Haliburton's going to try to attack Cat off the dribble. We need to be ready to provide assistance. But that anticipation and help positioning just opened up other opportunities for Indiana shooters. The Pacers are just such a well-designed team, man. They've got multiple ways to punish whatever defensive coverage you want to throw at them. It's like playing whack-a-mole. You solve one problem, and 2 more pop up somewhere else on the court. Ben Shepherd knocked down 2 threes in this game, and I thought he had a couple of really solid defensive possessions against Brunson as well. His defense wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad either. He was competing, making Brunson work for his shots. That's all you can ask for from a young player in that spot. Nesmith took way fewer shots in this game compared to some of his other performances. But here's the crazy thing. He's basically not missed a shot in forever. He only missed 3 shots tonight. Granted, he only took 7 total, but whatever. The man is in some kind of zone right now. And that kind of shooting confidence from your role players can be absolutely devastating in playoff basketball. When your third and fourth options are shooting the ball like that, it puts so much pressure on the opposing defense. They can't just focus on stopping your stars because these other guys will make you pay. It's that depth and balance that makes the Pacers so dangerous. And here is the thing that really stood out after this game. How many minutes can you realistically get? Mitch Robinson out there. It was clear that Coach Thibodeau did not want to take Mitch out of this game at all. Mitch actually played 1 more minute than Cat, which tells you everything about how Thibs viewed the matchups and what was working. But you could also tell that the Pacers eventually figured out that if they space the floor in certain ways, it puts Mitch in some really tough spots defensively. Mitch is going to get some of his value back on the offensive glass. That's just who he is as a player. And the Pacers can't completely eliminate that part of his game. But the spacing issues are real, and there's something the Knicks are going to have to address moving forward in this series. The other thing, and this is very much prisoner of a moment type analysis, but I imagine the Knicks would prefer not to have to double team Siakam every single time he gets a face-up opportunity or when he's operating on the low block. Putting 2 defenders on the ball against this Pacers team is just incredibly difficult for obvious reasons. They re-spaced out perfectly. The ball flies around like it's on a string, and someone's always going to be open. But here's the scary question for New York. If Siakam is on track to have another game like this one, or even close to this level of production, what exactly do you do if he's not going to shoot 15-43 again? We have to assume that, right? I mean, I've been wrong on many predictions these playoffs, so who knows at this point. But if he's trending toward this type of dominant performance again, it's like, bro, what's your answer? They've got to figure something out because you can't just hope he cools off. That's not a sustainable game plan against a player of his caliber, especially when he's feeling it like this and has all these other weapons around him to keep the defense honest. Look, I'm just some guy talking into a microphone here, but what I'm seeing from the Pacers right now is special. This isn't just about talent, though they obviously have plenty of that. This is about a team that knows exactly who they are and what they want to do on both ends of the floor. They're not getting rattled by the moment. They're not overthinking situations. And they're not trying to be something they're not. When the Knicks make a run, Indiana responds. When they need a big shot, someone steps up and makes it. When they need a stop, they find a way to get it. That's championship-level composure and execution. The scary part for every other team left in these playoffs is that the Pacers look like they just getting started. These are UNT fluky performances or unsustainable shooting nights. This is a well-coached team with multiple all-star level players and incredible depth executing their game plan at an elite level. For the Knicks, they've got to find answers quickly. The effort is there, the talent is there, but right now, they're getting outplayed and outcoached. Thibodeau is going to have to pull something out of his bag of tricks, because what they're redoing isn't working consistently enough. This series is far from over, but if I'm being honest, the Pacers look like the better team right now. They're playing with house money, they're playing with confidence, and most importantly, they're playing the right way. That's a dangerous combination in playoff basketball.